Welcome to the Daily Insider here on Vegas Insider. I am Kevin Rodgers, and today is February 18th, 2022. So that means it is the beginning of the NBA All-Star break. So the NBA will step aside for a few days, and college basketball takes center stage this weekend, NHL as well. And also Daytona is coming up on Sunday, Daytona 500, Daytona Beach, Florida. So we'll do a really quick bite-sized preview on that coming up. Also, Film Friday. That's what we have now. We are instituting Film Friday. Thom Cunningham will join us, our resident movie expert, the second coming of Roger Ebert. So we will talk to him coming up. But first, want to bring on Tommy Freeze Pops, Tom Carroll. And Tom, thank you so much for being here, as always, in the terrible weather of the Northeast.
It was horrible this morning, dude.
So please tell me, because I'm in South Florida, just tell me how the weather is up there.
Well, we got a surprise 6 to 8 inches on Super Bowl Sunday, which was lovely. Really ruined everyone's Super Bowl plans. And it was then like 60 degrees for the last day and a half, because that's what New England does. It'll be a blizzard one day, and then it'll be 60 degrees. And then this morning, it was almost like there was a tornado happening outside my apartment. The wind was hitting the windows so loudly that I was awake at 5 a.m. and I remained awake until my alarm went off at 8 a.m. So, yeah, it's just what we deal with up here. I don't know why we go through this pain, but it is what it is.
That's your choice, and your choice is wrong, but that's okay.
It's a horrible choice.
We're going to get to – it's not your choice. You can choose that one. Christian D'Andrea is going to join us in just a second. He's from For the Win, and we're going to talk to him some NFL coming up. I want to ask you this before we get to Christian. I'll ask Christian's opinion on this too, but before we get him on. What did you think about the Matthew Stafford situation with the photographer? If people didn't see this, the woman was at the parade in L.A. She fell off the stage, and Matthew Stafford did one of these.
Yeah, that's tough.
Like, oh, Kelly, you take care of this. Now, before you tell me, just to give you the end of the story, so now I guess out of guilt, because he's been destroyed all over social media, he's going to pay, well, the Staffords are going to pay for her hospital bills, a new camera, all of that. I think Matthew was totally wrong in this whole thing. I don't care how drunk he was. I mean, at least are you okay? He doesn't have to pay a single hospital bill. He turned his back. Now he's guilted into doing it.
Yeah, I think off the top, they're doing the right thing by covering everything, because he clearly is in the wrong here. With that said, and I feel weird giving a caveat, but like the dude was absolutely hammered, right? Like, and again, that's no excuse, but that is the reason, right? Like, if he wasn't hammered, he would have jumped into action there. But he I think so. He's a generally good guy, right? There's not really like anything bad out there about Stafford, but because he was hammered drunk, he was just like, oh, whatever. So he was irresponsibly drunk. So he made the wrong choice. And now he has to, deal with the consequences and deal with the backlash. So I'm not saying that he's in the right, but that's definitely the reason why it happened. So
all right.
I feel badly for the whole situation. The poor girl.
Here's the other one too, that no one's asking Matthew Stafford to perform emergency surgery on this woman.
Right.
No one's asking him to go in, and put a mask on and start doing surgery. Just, are you okay? Hold on, we'll get some help and then go back. Like,
the optics were horrible. He literally looked at her and turned the other way. It was bad.
He dropped that. Not my problem.
Yeah, nope, not today. I'm enjoying my Super Bowl.
Christian D'Andrea is with us now, and he's laughing because he has an opinion on this, I hope, from For the Win.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it's first off the reaction, just the acknowledgement, the oh my God, and then walking away was the perfect like encapsulation of a guy who was the top rated recruit out of high school, a guy who has been pretty high up there in jock circles. That's the kind of thing you'd expect in high school, and the drunk jock just kind of brushes off the nerdy photographer. But I mean, she got milkshake ducked pretty hard today, had to delete her Twitter, some awful things on there. So this is a situation where everyone comes out looking pretty bad in this one. And like you said, all Stafford had to do was, instead of going, oh, and walking away, was look down over that giant OSHA violation of a stage, ask, are you okay? and then maybe ask someone else to lend a hand. What a
call someone over.
Yeah, just wave someone over. Obviously, he doesn't even have to get off the stage. He just has to do something better than.
he was the guy at the party who's like, oh shit.
Yep. He's like, oh, that girl's throwing up
here. I gotta go.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Now, here's the other thing. You just brought this up, Christian, and I saw this too. So now we're going into the digging into her social media from 2013, and she said some bad things, assuming those were like her. Now we're going to do that and be like, oh, well, you're not a good person either, so you don't deserve anything.
It's Twitter. It's a hellscape, day in, day out. And I'm just I'm lucky it was the Rams, because they only have like 6 or 7 diehard insane fans willing to pour through 20,000 tweets to look up for any instance of the N-word or whatever. If this were Tom Brady, this would have come to light much, much sooner because he would have had all his defenders out way earlier. The moment that photographer slipped off the stage, some Boston lunatic would have been digging through her tweets. The Rams, not as hardcore a fan base, took a little bit of extra time. And it's a bad scene all around. It's all very, very stupid.
The other one too, Tom, hold on a second. You brought up Tom Brady. So the guy can throw a trophy in the ocean, and he's the awesomest guy around. Matt Stafford, of course, if somebody fell off a boat, Brady goes in the water and he saves it. Matt Stafford's just like, nope.
Yeah, that's why one's the GOAT and one is Matthew Stafford.
Well, I think we can all agree. Matthew Stafford has a buoyant body. He's got that giant lollipop head. That thing is not. You throw him in the water, he's going to bob around like a watermelon pushed into the pool. So he's. If someone falls into the ocean, he's probably not going to be able to save him anyway. That head is too buoyant.
Way too buoyant. Way too buoyant. Not fast enough. Not aerodynamic at all.
Yeah.
All right.
Tom Brady,
here's
aerodynamic, built for speed. We all know this. See, that's exactly
pliability.
These contours redone. He was basically shaped in a wind tunnel for better swimming and saving people lost in the canals of Tampa, Florida.
100%.
So, Christian,
this is a good podcast. We're on a roll already. I love it.
Keep it going.
You covered the NFL for the win, and you came out with a couple articles already looking ahead to next season. We haven't even let this season sit already. Now, so we're looking ahead to next season. What do you think? I'm going to throw this one out at you right out of the gate. I've always believed that teams like the Bengals, for instance, we've seen it with Matt Ryan and the Falcons, Cam Newton, the Panthers, they'll be back. They don't come back. Do you think Cincinnati can come back after leading the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl, losing the way they did? You think they can be back in this game? Because I think the AFC is just too tough for them to do it again.
It's going to be very difficult. I think they will regress a little bit because typically teams that go from losing record to Super Bowl appearance, we've had it 4 times in the last 7 years. Those teams lose an average of 4 more games the next season. So it's obviously very difficult. The one advantage Cincinnati has that Cincinnati really hasn't had in the past is they have a boatload of cap space, and that's great. But before, you're the Bengals. Who are you attracting to come in? Who are you attracting a big top-tier free agent-wise to come play for Marvin Lewis? There were some struggles there. Now you got a young coach who probably doesn't really know what he's doing. Zach Taylor has not really impressed me, but he's smart enough to stay out of the way, and he's got a great quarterback, an electric young receiving core. And there are going to be guys who are like, you know what? I want to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to eat some of that chili with chocolate and cinnamon in it. I want to throw down at Rheingeist Brewery and go hard across the river in Newport, Kentucky. That's a big, huge advantage. And they have the 3rd most cap space of anyone this offseason. And they kind of know that they suck at drafting offensive linemen. They have the money to go in and lure a guy like Teron Armstead, maybe a Trent Brown, bring them to town. If they can fix up that offensive line, they have a very good shot of repeating as AFC North champions. Do I think they're going to make it back to the Super Bowl? I'm a little bit pessimistic about that. I think they got a little bit lucky along the way, and I think they got a little bit risky with their strategy against the Chiefs, particularly that single high coverage. It worked twice. Credit to Lou Anarumo for getting it done. But I feel like that is an untenable situation going forward. I think Kansas City, give them a 3rd game against the Bengals, and they'll figure out how to make things work in the second half. So
now, Kevin, you brought up Cam Newton, Matt Ryan, and I saw you tweet this earlier this week. So when I was doing some prep for Great Dane Nation, I actually wanted to expand on that. And I'll throw these names out to you, Christian. And this is just more fodder. There's not really a take here. So I went back to 1980, and I was looking at guys that made a Super Bowl for the first time and then never got back as a starter. Dan Marino, 1984. Jim McMahon, 1985. Drew Bledsoe, 1996. Steve McNair, 1999. Donovan McNabb, 2004. Colin Kaepernick, 2012. Cam Newton, 2015. And then, like you said, Matt Ryan in 2016. So think about the conversations that we were having around those guys when they were making the Super Bowl. Like in 1999, when McNair got there with Titans, you look at the core they had, and you're super excited about the Titans' future with Jeff Fisher, right? Like, oh, they'll be back. He's only in his 5th season. Or, Donovan McNabb was in season 5 when he got to the Super Bowl, and they had just lost in all those NFC championship games in a row. But, they got T.O. and Andy Reid's great. They'll throw the ball to Brian Westbrook out of the backfield. It just doesn't happen that often that a guy loses in a Super Bowl and gets back in the history of this league. And I know, Bledsoe got back as a backup. Right. Jim McMahon got back as a backup. But, as a starter, it doesn't happen that often. Elway's kind of the exception, right? I think he lost, 3 Super Bowls, and then he got back at the end. So I don't know. The history of the league tells us that Burrow may have had his one shot at glory here. And Rodgers and Breeze, 2 guys that never got back after winning a Super Bowl. So I don't know, Christian. What do you think about this?
No, it's very possible. And obviously, like you said, we've seen it all the time. I think one of the issues that came up, especially towards the beginning of the 2000s, is that we had dynasties rise up. We had the Patriots wiping everyone off the map. Those Titans couldn't win a title because of the greatest show on turf, Rams. And right now, the question is going to be who's going to be the team that steps into that void. Because for a minute there, it looked like the Buccaneers were maybe going to build a multi-year thing, and now they're going to be sliding back down the chute. The Chiefs were the new Patriots in the AFC, but they've already lost to the Bengals. Are the Bills finally going to break through? Maybe it's the Bengals' time to be that dynasty. I know that sounds dirty coming out of my mouth. The Bengals dynasty is a weird sentence. It just doesn't seem natural. But
yuck.
There's a lot of potential there with this team, and they can build now because they have that rookie scale contract for Joe Burrow. They have a ton of cap space. This is their time to strike while the iron's hot before they have to start paying Joe Burrow $50 million, $60 million a year. If they can't get it done now, then I would start to get worried for sure. But huge opportunity at the moment. The AFC is more or less open, although, your top 2 teams, betting-wise, to win the Super Bowl are the Bills, are the Chiefs. So it's going to be tough, clearly, and there are very obvious needs that need to be filled, offensive line and defensive backs. They got to figure out what they're going to do with Jesse Bates, but future's pretty bright for Cincinnati. They just have to hope they don't botch this, which if you're a Bengals fan, you're always worried about, but they kind of nailed free agency lately. DJ Reader, Trey Hendrickson, they kind of nailed the tops of their drafts recently. I would have cautious, guarded optimism if I'm living in Southwest Ohio right now.
What about the Chiefs, Christian? Because we saw that Patrick Mahomes is still scrambling, like he was in the fourth quarter, that they had an opportunity to beat Cincinnati, plenty of opportunities, ended up losing that game, as we saw. Is the window closed on the Chiefs? I know that the Bills can't figure them out in the playoffs, at least so far, but is Kansas City still, I know they're the favorite, but you think that they could just wipe this away and get back to it again next year? Or, again, we don't know what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers going to Denver potentially. That AFC West is going to be tougher. What do you think with the Chiefs? Do you think the window is closed on them?
I don't think it's closed, but they kind of need to nail this draft. They're going to have a lot of holes to fill without a ton of salary cap space because you got your $500 million man, Patrick Mahomes, behind center. You're obviously paying a lot for Tyreek Hill, for Travis Kelce. And now you got to figure out what's going to happen with Orlando Brown Jr. You traded a first-round pick to bring him in, and now he's going to be a very, very in-demand free agent. You got to figure out what to do with Charvarius Ward, Tyrann Mathieu. And we know that secondary has been a weak point lately, especially in the beginning of the season. So they need to go in and get low-cost contributors who can make an instant impact. And the Packers did this. They got really lucky because they got Devondre Campbell. They got Russell Douglas. They got a pretty good season out of Eric Stokes. And that kept them going in a year where they were cash-strapped because of a high-priced quarterback. Chiefs need to follow that blueprint. They need to do the same thing. And I'm not going to throw any dirt on their grave just yet, but there are a lot of questions they need to answer this offseason. And we know the passing game is still going to be tight. It's going to be fine. They can use a little bit more depth. They got to figure out what's going on with DeMarcus Robinson, Byron Pringle, and the smaller guys who make a big impact in that offense from game to game. there's bigger issues to fix there, though. And if that defense can't get back online and take over in those games where Patrick Mahomes is a little bit less than, this was statistically his worst season as a starter, they're going to struggle again, and they're going to get passed by the Bills, who are playing with house money in 2022. They can afford to take the best possible player in the draft, and they don't have a lot of huge gaping holes to fill other than maybe a cornerback if they can't bring Levi Wallace back.
So I'm taking a look at the story you wrote for the Win earlier this week, talking about the power rankings for the Super Bowl 57. We're almost a full 365 days away from it, but let's talk about it, baby. You got the Rams number 1 on your power rankings. Is that just by virtue of, hey, they have the title belt, we're just in the wake of them winning, let's give it to them again here? Or do you think that they really do have the best chance at this point? I mean, they have, kind of a cap strap situation. You got them here at negative 13.7 million in cap space. They don't have a first round pick for like the next decade. So Odell Beckham Jr., is he going to be back on this squad? Probably is going to miss a lot of time next year because of the knee injury anyways, even if he is back in LA. So what's going on here? Why are the Rams in this top spot? Is Aaron Donald even going to play? Come on. What are we doing here, Christian?
The king stays the king, right? And we know what the Rams are capable of. We know that their all-in approach has paid off and paid dividends. So you can't really shunt them down the rankings right now. They still have a quarterback who is operating at the top of the game, who slumped towards the end of the season and then bounced back in time to play the best football of his career in the biggest moments. They still have Cooper Kupp. They will have a healthy Cam Akers. The running game will be okay. They need to figure out what's going on in that offensive line. Brian Allen, a free agent. Andrew Whitworth almost certainly going to retire after beating his former team in the Super Bowl. What a story there. So they are going to have to draft well and make replacements in the trenches. But they still have Aaron Donald. They still have Jalen Ramsey. They still have the superstars necessary to go out and win the Super Bowl. And if this team stays healthy, which is a big if, because there was a lot of injury luck involved with the Rams. Yes, they lost Akers for a while. Yes, Robert Woods missed the bulk of the season. He'll be back too. No, don't forget about Bobby Trees. But if they can stay healthy, they have the bones of a championship team. We know that. It's been proven. And like I said, they're on top of the mountain right now, and not enough is changing. I don't think Aaron Donald's going anywhere. I don't think Sean McVay's going anywhere. Not enough's changed for me to knock them below, let's say, the Chiefs or the Bills. Although the Bills pretty dang close right now. They just need to prove they can get this done in the postseason.
So you think there's a ton of value there right now at plus 1,000, plus 1,100, where I'm in some other places. Like, throw a little coin on that while the number's sitting there in the 1,000 range.
Yeah, get them early, get them while you can. And honestly, you brought up Odell Beckham before. This might be a situation where that knee injury actually works out for the Rams, because he might be able to take a 1-year hometown discount, prove it deal to revive his value. That's how he ended up in the Rams with the Rams in the first place. Came on late. If he stays healthy that Super Bowl, we have a very different Super Bowl. I think we can all agree there. This is not a dramatic come from behind finish for the Rams. OBJ stays healthy. They roast that Bengals secondary. And this is probably something like a 10, 13-point LA win. Now, I think OBJ knows that. I think he's happy. I think he knows he's going to get the ball there, even with Robert Woods back in the lineup, and he knows he can revive his value. So rather than take a prove-it deal somewhere else, I think he might stay home, might sneak under the cap a little bit, because the Rams, $13 million over the cap right now, but not the worst cap space by a long shot. They have a lot of room to restructure their current deals with guys who they know they're going to be paying for a while, whether that's Donald, whether that's Stafford, whether that's Jalen Ramsey. So I think they are going to find ways, New Orleans Saints style, to reclaim the guys who are about to hit free agency that they deem important. I think they're going to reload, and I think, ultimately they're going to be your favorites to win the NFC, because, I mean, right now, who's in a better spot than they are?
Now, looking at some other teams in the NFC, Christian, all right, Aaron Rodgers, we don't know his situation. If he stays with the Packers, he retires, he finds a new woman, whatever he does. He goes to San Francisco. No, actually, Brady would go to San Francisco if that would happen. Right. Let's throw all this out there for you. I'm going to throw two names. Aaron Rodgers, where does he play next year? Tom Brady, does he come back? Does he play for the 49ers next year?
No, Brady's not going to the 49ers. They invested 3 first-round picks to bring Trey Lance, and he's their future there, and I think they're very happy with the way he's been developing. They're going to trade or cut Jimmy Garoppolo, and, Pittsburgh Steeler Jimmy Garoppolo is going to do just fine next season.
Yeah, that feels like that's inevitable.
Yeah. Or Pittsburgh Steeler Teddy Bridgewater. Pittsburgh just needs an average quarterback to get things back in line. Someone who can throw the ball more than 8 yards without groaning like he's just been shot in the back. So they're going to upgrade from Noodle Arm Ben. They'll be fine. They'll be back in the postseason. The defense will have some time to recover. It's not a problem. Packers, I think, are going to move heaven and earth to keep Aaron Rodgers around. They hired a quarterbacks coach he loves. They know he's still under contract for one more season. Yeah, maybe it is kind of a do or die when it comes to trading him, since he can walk away next season if he wants. But Rodgers is Rodgers. I think ultimately he's going to be a lot of sound and fury with no payoff, because that's kind of been his thing. And I think there's going to be a little bit of drama. I think the Packers are going to look into trade possibilities. I think ultimately they're going to demur. They're going to work out an extension. They're going to cut down his cap liability. They're going to use that space to bring back Devontae Adams at something insane like $22 million a year, because that's what they have to do. You can't have Rodgers without Adams, and you probably won't have Adams without Rodgers.
Wow, that's not fun. Why can't you give us like Rodgers is going to Denver? I got the scoop.
I would love it. And I think the Broncos are set up right now to make a move. I just think they're going to strike out on the big quarterbacks they want. I think the Seahawks can be too impatient to settle on a rebuild right now. Pete Carroll's an old man, oldest coach in the game, 71 years old. Russell Wilson, I'm sure he wants to go other places, but the Seahawks aren't going to want that. They aren't going to want to sit through this. So I think they're going to maybe take a Rams approach. Instead of bringing in a high-priced quarterback, they're going to bring in a high-priced edge rusher or something like that. Kind of the Jamal Adams path, except with someone who's actually good at football and not Jamal Adams. I think that Denver is going to be in the market for these guys. And I think ultimately it's going to come down to settling for a kind of sort of average quarterback, bringing Bridgewater back, going after Jimmy Garoppolo, freeing Jared Goff. I think ultimately if Kenny Pickett's there for him when they make their first-round pick, he might be the guy because he's the most pro-ready of the guys available right now. I think Elway sees a little bit of himself in a guy who starred 5 seasons at Pitt, brought him to their first 10-plus win season since Dave Wanstead was head coach. I could see that happening where maybe they let Locke and Pickett duel it out for a year, and if Pickett is just an average quarterback, he probably gets into the postseason. Let's be honest. I mean, they get the last place schedule since they finished last in the AFC West. They're going to get to play the Jets, play the Jaguars. I don't know. There's going to be some musical chairs for quarterbacks. I think we're all just going to be underwhelmed in who it is. It's not going to be an all-pro or Pro Bowl guy. It's going to be Jared Goff. It's going to be Gardner Minshew. It's going to be guys who are just like, eh.
Yeah.
What about Kyler Murray, that situation in Arizona? Because the Cardinals have all the pressure on them, Christian. They got to make the Super Bowl, keep the streak alive, hosting Super Bowls. We had 54 straight years of nothing, and now we got to go 3 straight with a team hosting the Super Bowl. What's the deal with Kyler Murray there in Arizona? Why is he so unhappy?
I think he's just frustrated the same way all the Cardinals fans are frustrated right now. They see a team that starts off great, that exceeds expectations, that looks like it's going to make a difference. And then they see that team fail to make adjustments and fall apart. Part of that's on Murray, but the bulk of that is on Cliff Kingsbury. Kingsbury is great at devising game plans. He's great at setting a schedule, and he's terrible at deviating from it. He doesn't adjust on the fly. He doesn't adjust well for injuries that take their toll down the line of the season. We saw it last season, or in 2020 rather, when Kyler Murray got hurt, wasn't playing at full strength. The offense didn't change, even though he was less mobile, less able to make Kyler Murray plays. We saw it again this year with DeAndre Hopkins out, and the Cardinals crash and burn towards the end. Yes, they made it to the postseason, but Cliff Kingsbury's got a hot seat right now. And I think if you are Arizona and you're looking at, would I rather have Kyler Murray on my sideline or would I rather have Cliff Kingsbury? You're leaning towards Kyler right now. And maybe he is a little bit upset. Maybe he is a little annoyed. I think there's a lot of smoke signals being sent out right now where both sides are trying to come out looking better in this deal. And, Kyler's on his phone talking to his girlfriend at halftime. Kyler's going, I only give 110% to this team. The truth probably somewhere in the middle. But, I mean, it's the Cardinals. They have the bones. They have the foundation to be so much better than they are. And they are that team early in the season, and it all falls apart. So I think that's the frustration that's kind of seeped into the bones right now. And we don't know if Arizona has the doctor on staff that can cure them of that malady. They might have to, completely excise the limb and cut off the leg where Cliff Kingsbury is right now.
So, Christian, you have the Cardinals at 9th on your power rankings for Super Bowl 57.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like that's sort of like a fake 9th. Or where is the cutoff within your top 10 of teams that actually have a chance to win the Super Bowl? Because that didn't sound like a Super Bowl shot team to me.
Yeah, and you know what? It's probably about the top 6 right now. I like the 49ers a lot, honestly. I think if they draft well and if Trey Lance can be the guy, I think he can really change things up, because Trey Lance is such a departure from Jimmy Garoppolo, who was, kind of a pocket passer who made bad decisions. And when he got outside the pocket and scrambled, he threw those, wounded duck passes to no one that ended up getting intercepted, even though they only traveled 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Shout out to Jimmy G, my favorite panic quarterback in the league. If Trey Lance can just be stable and just avoid stupid turnovers, and he's got a whole year to grow. And if he can get outside the tackles and turn those pressure situations that led to so many turnovers for these 49ers and turn those into big gains and to drive sustaining first downs, that is going to be an absolute boon for the Niners. They're going to go out this draft. They're going to bulk up that secondary that was such a problem. But they have so many playmakers. They have the guys who can run after the catch and make any quarterback look good. I think this is just a very well-assembled team right now, and I do really like them. So I would say that cutoff is right around 7 or 8. I'm very interested to see what the Tennessee Titans do, because I don't want to put them in that level with contenders. Mike Vrabel's teams, they keep winning, they keep chugging along, and they're going to have another chance to fix that passing offense, to get Ryan Tannehill back online. And that defense was much better than any of us could have expected. So I think right around that 49ers Titans tier is right about where you go from, I could see these guys in the Super Bowl, to, oh, they're going to flame out in the playoffs.
All right. Pick your Super Bowl right now, AFC, NFC champion. You're not beholden to your power rankings. Wow. You can, give us any scenario you want, how it's going to play out. Who gets there? How do they get there? Go.
It's, you know what? This is a tough one. I want to go Bills out of the AFC, right? Because they keep building that playoff experience, and we do see teams like that break through, and Josh Allen, body of a Ford F-150 and brain of a Ford F-150. He just wants to hit things. He just wants to plow over the terrain and make things happen. Love, love, love Josh Allen. Thrilled to be wrong about Josh Allen, because I was one of those guys, like, this guy he completed 55% of his passes at Wyoming. He's never going to be a pro. No! Possible MVP next year. Awesome. Love watching him play. I'm very sad about the terrible things he's going to do to my Patriots. It's going to be a problem. So let's go Bills, finally breaking through. They add some proper rookie talent, and they get Tre'Davious White back, and they finally overcome the Chiefs, and they get past the Ravens, who I do think will have a bounce-back season, and they get to the AFC side of the Super Bowl. NFC side, oh, man, it's a tough one. I'm looking forward to the Packers' annual playoff collapse. It makes things very sad up here in lovely Wisconsin, but the road to get there is very fun and paved with green jello shots every time they score a touchdown. Let's get bold with it. Let's say the Niners break through. Let's say Trey Lance rises to the occasion and he gets them to the Super Bowl, and then he falls off a little bit, and we get something like Bills 29, Niners 16. Maybe a Super Bowl scoregami for all the folks out there.
Wow. I love that. We're getting Super Bowl score predictions here on February 18th. I love it.
This is a Tommy Freeze Pops production. I couldn't come weak, okay? I came strapped, or I didn't come at all.
Come correct, baby.
Yeah.
Christian DeAndrea. Is that the way I say her last name? I want to make sure I don't screw it up.
Close enough. DeAndrea.
Okay. Not Andrea, like Andrea Zuckerman.
You got to be a little more Italian. DeAndrea.
DeAndrea.
I like the helmets behind you. I like that.
Yeah, that was a estate sale pickup. $18. 1973. Got a little Cleveland Browns logo here that was never used.
Oh, look at that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
CB.
Nice. I like that. Looks good. Christian, thank you so much for the win. You can find him on Twitter at Train Island. Thank you so much. Stay warm in Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolute blast, guys. I had a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
All right, you got
Thanks,
it. All
Christian.
right, there's Christian, and great work out of him. And before we continue with you, Tom, you'll get to Thom Cunningham in just a second. You know what's coming up this weekend? You know what's coming up on Sunday?
NASCAR,
you know what's
baby.
coming up. Start your engines. Daytona 500. And you know what? Here, we're going to look at the odds really fast. So, Denny Hamlin, he is the favorite at plus 850. He didn't win it last year. It was Michael McDowell who won it, like 100-1 odds. He's at 60-1. So, Hamlin's won it 3 times. Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, those are the top drivers for this Sunday's Daytona 500 in Daytona Beach. And you know what's funny, Tom, is that there's no stats saying that, all right, this is going to be an upset year in, year out. We know Daytona is the super speedway and you have crashes and all this crazy stuff happen. But for the most part, you've seen very few upsets through the years. Hamlin won it in 19 and 20. Kurt Busch won in 17. Hamlin in 16. Logano in 15. But Austin Dillon won it in 18. McDowell last year. Trevor Bayne, remember him in 2011. But for the most part, you get more of the name drivers that win it. So you would think after Hamlin won it 2 straight years, you had, I hate to say McDowell's a no-name, but not one of the big names win it. That probably get back to a big name this year.
Yeah, that's one of those races that even if you're not a NASCAR fan, you kind of pay attention to it, right? It's the first big event of the year in auto racing. And, I always enjoyed when the big name guy as a kid would win the Daytona 500, because when I would watch SportsCenter like 6 times in a row, the exact same episode, and they would spend like 5 minutes on NASCAR, I always enjoyed knowing the name of the guy that won. So as a sports fan and not necessarily a NASCAR enthusiast, I would enjoy seeing a name like Joey Logano taking home Daytona this year. A name that I recognize that I can be like, okay, yeah, good for him. I'm happy he won. I'm not going to be laying down any cash here.
Well, there's definitely a lot of new names towards the bottom, but as far as a lot of the guys that, if you somewhat follow NASCAR, that you've heard of, I mean, we know that Kyle Busch is going to race in like 25 races this weekend, because it's what he always does. He has a truck race, he does this race, he does that race. He's going to drive around Daytona, around the streets. So, yeah, I mean, you look at Denny Hamlin, he's the favorite. I never suggest always going with the favorite just because it's auto racing. It could go any direction. I will tell you, though, what is fun is do the head-to-heads. That's fun. When you have the 2 drivers and all you got to do is worry about who's going to finish ahead of the other one. That one, I think, is more fun than trying to pick the winner. I think picking the winner of these is impossible.
Yeah, and that feels like a way to actually have a better chance of winning your bet, right? Because it does feel like, again, I don't follow NASCAR closely, but just being a sports fan, you always see the same sort of 10, 15 names towards the top, right? So you can probably go ahead and pick, your 3 or 4 guys that you like to finish ahead of guys that are always towards the bottom of the pack, and just make money all season that way if you can. So that's a good call by you. I like that. There's always an angle here to make a little cash. Doesn't matter the sport. Doesn't matter if you're diehard. You just got to find your niche, your little route into making a little money. I like that.
Wheelhouse.
Exactly.
All right. Now that we have done that, now let's bring on our friend Thom Cunningham. And we're going to totally deviate off the spectrum here, because we're going to talk about the Oscars.
Yes.
Tom, good to see you again. And number one, when are the Oscars?
March 27th.
March
we got about 27th. A month.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, Tom, before we get you here. We're going to just put this on the screen. Okay, go ahead. So we have some of the odds now. All right, on the screen. You can see them.
Nice. I don't have to look to my right, even though I'm still going to do that.
Whatever you're comfortable doing, man. It's Film Friday. This show is your oyster.
That's right. So what, you want me to just go ahead and dive into what I like?
Well, here's what we'll do. Instead of just going right through it, okay, the power of the dog is the favorite to win.
Right.
The power of the dog. What's that about? Is that about a dog?
No spoilers. So it's on Netflix right now. It stars Benedict Cumberbatch, Jesse Plemons, Kirsten Dunst, a few others. And it is the powerhouse of all the movies right now. And as I go through these movies and view them, I tend to keep the powerhouses towards the end a little bit, because if it's kind of already known that that's the one to beat, it almost makes a little bit more sense to save it towards the end and to see, everything else that we watch, how it compares to that at the very end. There's something very similar with Nomadland last year. That was the powerhouse movie. It ended up winning the most awards last year. It only took home 3. So the winners were quite scattered in 2020. But this does seem, without a doubt, to be the powerhouse, no pun intended, the power of the dog, of the Oscars this year. Now, you go through that list, you also see movies like Dune is nominated for a ton of stuff. Belfast, West Side Story, Drive My Car has really come out of nowhere. And that's nominated for Best Screenplay, Best Movie, Best Director, Best International Film. So to say that the power of the dog is going to take home a lot of stuff, I'm not sold on that just yet. But it is, without a doubt, being advertised as the movie to beat at this year's Oscars for multiple categories.
So you and I were talking yesterday, and you told me about how crazy this market swings up and down. And that's why I want to have you on for the Fridays leading up to the Oscars, because I just think it's fascinating to kind of track this stuff. And, I want you to set up for our audience sort of the stuff you were telling me yesterday, where the guys who were the front runners for these slots a month out for the Oscars last year, by the time the awards came around, they didn't come close to winning.
Yeah,
we don't know how it stacks up, right? They don't tell us who comes in second, who comes in third, but the heavy favorite did not end up winning the Oscars last year.
Well, just one category.
Right.
Categories. So Best Actor didn't win. That was Chadwick Boseman was a heavy favorite. I believe he was 1-12 odds, which is insane. And Anthony Hopkins took home the hardware at 8-1 or 7-1. So there is value out there. What you're talking about, Tom, is how the odds fluctuate between when the nominations and odds are released and then when the actual award show takes place. And I was telling you about My Octopus Teacher. It won Best Documentary last year at the Oscars. It opened at plus value. I believe it was plus 125, plus 150, right around that range. About a week and a half went by, and it was minus 500. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Once nominations come out, people start to view these movies more frequently. Netflix has a real advantage with this because it is the most popular streaming service out there. So typically movies that are good and are on Netflix tend to do pretty well at the Oscars, and you see those odds rise. And Kevin and I were talking about this last year with The Trial of the Chicago 7. And that was another movie that had plus value odds. As the award show came closer, it dropped. So it went from plus 150 to minus 118, minus 150 to win, I believe it was film editing. Well, it lost. It got nominated for 6 or 8 categories. It didn't take home a single one. So it doesn't always work in that favor where all of a sudden you see, oh crap, there's a bet I like, but all of a sudden it's getting more and more expensive. That doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to win. And I think Chadwick Boseman is a good example of that. He was hyped up as Actor of the Year. He didn't win. It went to Anthony Hopkins. Frances McDormand, Best Actress, she was plus 800, I believe, plus 900 to win. She took home the hardware too. The favorites went 17-6 at last year's Oscars. So keep that in mind when you see odds fluctuate between now and March 27th and you're looking to place a bet, go with your gut. Because that's really the best thing you can go with, because the favorites don't always win and the underdogs don't always win. It's just like sports. You really have no idea who's going to take home the win. So go with your gut. Don't feel too, don't feel like you have to make a bet because you see odds are changing. But if you're confident in one piece of film or one actor or one actress and you see odds go up or down and you want to take it, strike. Don't wait.
Aren't the Golden Globes coming up in just a little bit?
They ended. Those usually are precursors.
Oh, you're right, because they didn't air it, right?
Right. They didn't air it this year for reasons we don't have an hour to get into. But so that's a precursor. And a lot of people use that award show. They use the MTV Awards. They use various other film industry award shows to kind of dictate their thought process on who's going to win. A great example of this was that Nomadland was the favorite for Best Cinematography last year. Well, whatever the cinematography award show is that they do in Hollywood, Mank won. Mank was plus 350 last year, and it won. So it's a good idea to kind of understand, okay, where are the film editors voting for best film editing? Where are the wardrobe designers voting for best costume design? And those award shows, those precursors, are great indications of where the industry's mind is thinking on some of these.
Well, that's where I was going with is there some kind of, are you being swayed by that, whoever is voting, by seeing, okay, well, this one, best movie, best supporting actor, whatever it is, in the Golden Globes, now we're going to lean towards this for the Oscars?
I'm not. And the reason I say that is because Andrea Day last year, I thought was the best actress of all the nominations that I watched. And she won the Golden Globe for best actress, but it went to Frances McDormand. So it's not always a clear indication of what's going to happen, but it gives you, it gives you a little bit of thought process. If you're on the fence about two movies in one category, maybe then you go to that award show and say, okay, this is how they were thinking. Instead of flipping a coin per se, you can just see what the awards show for that specific category, who they won. And I think a good example of this year is the makeup design. I'm sorry. The Eyes of Tammy Faye and Cruella. Now, I have a very hard time who I'm putting 1 and 2 there. So I might go to the hair and makeup award show and see how they voted for that award to make up my mind. Otherwise, again, I would go with your gut, because there are a ton of people who told me they loved Anthony Hopkins. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, he's not going to win. Chadwick Boseman's minus 1,200 to win. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom was a good movie. He was fantastic in that. I have no reason to take Anthony Hopkins. Well, he ended up winning. So sometimes your first reaction is sometimes the one to go with in here.
Have you placed any bets as of now, or are you kind of holding off until you get the full scope? I know you spend like an insane amount of time leading up to the Oscars watching everything.
So I can't bet. But if I wasn't in Florida, I would. And I will tell you who. So there's 2 right now that have really stood out to me. One is Flea. And that's in a few categories. That's up for Best Animated Movie. It's up for Best Documentary. And it's up for Best International Movie. And what a unique movie that is when you're nominated for those 3 specific categories. I don't think I've ever heard of an international documentary animation film before. And it's fantastic. It's absolutely wonderful. Everyone's pretty high in Encanto for Best Animated Feature, and I'm not. And I don't want to sound like the old man in the yard, get out of my yard. But I just wasn't thrown away by it. I just thought it was another Disney Pixar movie. I kind of liked Luca a little bit better. I put Encanto a little bit higher in my rankings because it was a musical, and I think that's tough to pull off. But Flea was so good, and it's sitting at odds right now, 5-1 at plus 500 as the second favorite for Best Animated Movie. I still have the Mitchells versus the Machines to get to, but I don't really see that beating Flea. And I wasn't as high on Encanto. So I think if you're looking for some value right now, I would look at Flea for Best Animation or Best Documentary. Now, the Best Documentary odds have not dropped yet. There's 4 categories where odds have not dropped yet. One is Best Documentary. Keep your eyes peeled for that market to drop, and Flea will probably be the favorite. Depending on what the odds are, you might want to look at Flea for Best Animated Movie and Best Documentary. And then Jessica Chastain, Best Actress, The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I honestly think it's kind of close between her and Nicole Kidman for being the Ricardos. Nicole Kidman played Lucia Ball from I Love Lucy. It's kind of a biopic. She did fantastic, but Jessica Chastain plays Tammy Faye. And I don't know if either of you know anything about Tammy Faye, but she was one of those TV preachers, very famous through the 90s. And it's phenomenal. So it follows her life a little bit. I think it's between those two, and Jessica Chastain's getting odds at 5-1 plus 500. I really like that. So I would look at Jessica Chastain right now for Best Actress, and I would look at Flea for Best Animation and Best Documentary right now.
Well, I know we're going to have you on the next few Fridays, so we'll save some of the other big categories like Best Actor and all that. We'll get into that coming up soon. But how many of the movies have you watched so far? So
funny you asked that. I was like, I should go ahead and count because he's going to ask me how many movies.
I was, and you're right.
Give me all right. What's Tom? Do you want to set an over under?
Where you're at now, or what the actual number? Okay,
he's gonna watch all of them. He's gonna watch.
So you're at probably what 16 and a half. Is the over under here?
Okay, we're at 27 right now.
Oh wow. Okay, wow. You're well on the way.
How many are there?
Keep in mind, of those 27, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them are shorts, which are like 11 to 15 long. Okay. So, but still, it's a lot of movies. I still got 20 more to go or so. So we got time. We'll get there. And we got March Madness and Daytona coming up. By the way, you guys are talking about the Daytona 500. A good betting strategy in NASCAR for anyone that's listening. I really like taking the car to win between Toyota, Chevrolet, or Ford. And I usually like taking Ford because there's more top drivers in Ford. You're going to get plus value for any of those 3 picks. Then live bet. 20 laps to go, 25 laps to go, 30 laps to go, maybe around 30 laps to go. If there's 4 cars in the top 6, take the driver that's not a Ford driver. Take a Truex, who I think is Toyota or Chevrolet or whatever. But I think there's a good hedging strategy in NASCAR where you take the top car, Ford, Chevy, or Toyota, before the race starts. Then if you have the opportunity to live bet with 30, 40 laps to go, see what cars are leading the pack, and then go from there. Use process of elimination to take a live bet. So it's a good hedging strategy for NASCAR people.
I like that.
Tom Carroll has got so much NASCAR knowledge in the last 10 minutes that he's gonna be quitting football soon.
I am going to be the most educated NASCAR bettor in the state of Rhode Island. I can promise you that.
It's a large state, so I mean you got a lot of competition there.
There's about 25 of us, so.
Wait till
Your
F1
state
starts.
is this big on a map, so of course, I mean it's like a dot. Thom Cunningham, you could find him on Vegas Insider, and also look at the Oscars page as well. Now it's really picked up a lot of steam, and he'll keep that updated with best movie, best actor, best actress, all the categories, and we'll have Tom on again next week to look at best actor, best actress. I know you mentioned Nicole Kidman.
Lady Gaga got snubbed. I'm with everyone on that. So
Wow.
I want to see that. Yeah, the House of Gucci. Did that really quick before we get out of here with you. House of Gucci. Did it get any nominations?
it got 1 nomination, which I find atrocious, quite frankly. I also am listing my snubs on this Oscars page as I go. House of Gucci is only nominated for Best Makeup and Hairstyle. It won't win, unfortunately. It was good, but it was only Jared Leto that really stood out in that regard. Jared Leto should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Adam Driver, he could be nominated for Best Actor. Lady Gaga could be nominated for Best Actress, and it could have gotten a costume design nod as well, but, you know, whatever.
Maybe the Academy was like, all right, we gave Lady Gaga enough time in the sun with Star is Born. Like, we're good. We're Gaga'd out, okay? Like, go away for a little bit.
But that's cool.
Tom, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, guys. See ya.
All right,
Thanks,
there's
Tom.
Thom Cunningham, and man, Tom, you got a lot of stuff. Oscars, NASCAR. You think it's just football? That's a
Hitting them all, baby. We got the big three, as I like to say: football, movies, and NASCAR.
It is. That's what I mean. This is what you're here for.
That's
So
what I'm
anyway,
here for, man.
all right. So we're done here today, and Christian DeAndrea, or thanks to him, Thom Cunningham as well, and yeah. So we'll talk again next week. Tom, you'll be back on next Friday, so looking forward to that. We'll be off Monday, by the way. We won't have a show on President's Day. We'll be back on Tuesday. Stephanie Odie will be back with me. We got a big announcement Tuesday, so looking forward to that as well. But Tom Carroll, please stay very warm in the very disgusting Rhode Island weather.
Thank you, man. Yeah, we'll be enjoying the NBA All-Star break festivities this weekend, and you can check out all that NBA goodness on VegasInsider.com. Taking a look at the second half of the season, and we'll have picks on all the games after the All-Star break. So make sure you guys that love basketball are tuning in there. And this past Wednesday, so yeah, 2 days ago now, I lose track of days sometimes. Great Dane Nation, we had our Super Bowl recap show with Brian Finneran, Mr. Third Down from Atlanta, Morton's friend. He's a host down in the Atlanta area. Great guy to shoot the breeze with on football. He joined us for the full episode. The three of us are on the episode together, talking about the big game, taking a look at next year. So that was a lot of fun. Check it out, Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check it out right here on YouTube as well. So looking forward to just, kicking it this weekend, watching the dunk contest, Kevin. What about you? You into the dunk contest, 3-point contest? Throw that on in the background?
I used to be. The problem with the dunk contest now, it's just a lot of guys you don't really know, which is number one, and it's like 11 o'clock at night. It's getting
so late.
It's so late, and what else are you gonna do? Like, I guess we've seen the dunks. Like, what else can you possibly do that's gonna be that impressive? So maybe I'll catch it. I'll definitely see the highlights of it. I don't know if I'll watch it live, but But, I like the NBA, but it's nice to have a little break. So, everybody gets a break. So it's not the end of the world. Also, want to remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well at Vegas Insider. We would greatly appreciate it. You can watch our best bet videos. You can get the Daily Insider videos as well as the Great Day Nation videos. So check that out. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Vegas Insider. For Tom Carroll, I am Kevin Rodgers, and we appreciate you tuning in. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you again on Tuesday right here on the Daily Insider.